The chamber of the Galactic Council was a masterpiece of alien architecture, 7 rings of ascending seats carved from crystallized nebula stone, each tier occupied by delegates from 100 civilizations. Bioluminescent banners drifted in the recycled air. The hum of 17 different translation matrices buzzed beneath the surface of every spoken word. At the center of it all stood one human. Darian Voss did not look like a man attending his own funeral. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, weight balanced evenly on both feet, jaw relaxed. His charcoal suit was pressed. His dark eyes moved slowly across the assembled faces, mandibles, eye stalks, crystalline membranes, photoreceptor clusters, cataloging them all with the same quiet patience a librarian uses when scanning a shelf. High Chancellor Zyrex rose from the apex seat, his 4 arms folding into the formal gesture of absolute authority. His exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's cold light, iridescent purple fading to deep black at the edges, like a bruise across the sky. The Council has deliberated for 6 solar cycles, Zyrex announced, his translated voice carrying the weight of 2,000 years of galactic law. The species designation Homo sapiens, humanity, has been found in violation of 17 unified codes. Unauthorized terraforming. Unsanctioned weapons development. Repeated non-compliance with population limitation protocols. A pause, deliberate and theatrical. The sentence is exile. Earth and its colonies shall be severed from the galactic network. All trade routes, communication relays, and hyperspace corridor access will be revoked. Effective immediately. The chamber stirred. Some delegates rustled with what passed for approval. Others were perfectly still, the stillness of creatures watching a predator that hadn't noticed them yet. Darian Voss said nothing. Zyrex waited for the protest. The begging. The negotiation. Every species begged at the exile sentence. It was, in his experience, what lesser civilizations did when confronted with the full weight of galactic civilization pressing down upon them. Voss simply nodded once. Slowly. Like a man confirming a lunch reservation. Representative Voss, Zyrex said carefully, do you have anything to say before this sentence is recorded into permanent galactic law? Voss looked up at him. His expression was not angry. It was not afraid. It was something Zyrex, in 400 years of diplomacy, did not have a clean word for. Settled. The man looked settled, the way a deep-rooted tree looks settled when wind begins to rise around it. Just one thing, High Chancellor, Voss said. His voice was calm. Not performing calm. Actually calm. How long do you estimate before the Council requires Earth's assistance again? Silence dropped through the chamber like a stone through water. Excuse me? Zyrex said. I'm asking for your projected timeline, Voss said. Based on current trajectories. The Kreth expansion is moving toward the outer veil at roughly 3 parsecs per cycle. The void plague your medical councils have been quietly tracking has now jumped 4 species barriers. I believe the most recent was the Solari, yes? And the Ferox cluster's gravitational anomaly that no one in this chamber wants to officially name yet is destabilizing 17 inhabited systems. He paused. I'm asking how long before you send someone to knock on our door. Delegate Mervuk of the Solari Collective made a sound like shattering glass, their equivalent of a sharp intake of breath. Delegate Preth 7 of the Mechanical Accord went completely still, their photoreceptors narrowing to pinpoints. Zyrex kept his voice level. The galaxy has managed its affairs for 42,000 years, Voss finished. Yes. I've read the histories. He began to walk slowly in a small circle, hands still behind his back. You've managed your affairs for 42,000 years, and in that time you've survived 7 extinction-level events by relying on what the Council calls coalition resilience. But here's what I find interesting about those 7 events. He stopped walking. 5 of them were solved by species who joined the network after having been previously expelled or marginalized. The Dorothy, the Pale Chain, the Urex Collective. You exile what frightens you, then you beg it to come back when the universe stops caring about your feelings. The translator matrices worked in overtime. 17 species heard 17 slightly different versions of the same sentence, each calibrated to their cognitive frameworks. All of them landed the same way. You are a conquered people, Zyrex said, and now his voice had an edge to it. You are violent. You are unpredictable. You are adaptable, Voss said quietly. The word landed differently than any of the others. It didn't boom. It didn't echo. It simply sat in the air of the chamber and refused to move. We are the only species in your recorded history, Voss continued, who has survived 3 separate extinction-level events without assistance from the network. We survived an ice age with stone tools. We survived a global viral pandemic with 2 years of scientific development. We survived our own near-nuclear annihilation through, and historians will back me on this, stubbornness alone. He looked up at Zyrex directly. You're not exiling us because we're dangerous. You're exiling us because we're dangerous and you can't control us, and those 2 things together frighten you more than the Kreth expansion ever could. Zyrex stood to his full height, all 4 arms extending. The sentence stands, Representative Voss. Earth is hereby exiled. Yes. Voss picked up the formal exile proclamation scroll from the podium in front of him, the one he was expected to sign in acceptance, and rolled it neatly between his palms. We accept your exile. He signed it. We'll be fine, he said, handing the scroll back to the council clerk, a small, trembling Felian who took it with shaking appendages. We've been alone before. We know what alone looks like. He buttoned the single button on his jacket. The question is whether you do. He walked out of the chamber without waiting to be dismissed. His footsteps were even, unhurried, the sound of someone who had somewhere to be and no interest in being watched getting there. The exile lasted 11 years. 11 years during which Earth, cut off from the network, did not collapse. Did not beg. Did not send envoys. Earth built. Freed from galactic trade regulations, human engineers developed 3 propulsion technologies that should have taken centuries. Freed from population protocols, human scientists redirected birth incentive programs into research grants and produced 47 Nobel-equivalent breakthroughs in medicine, material science, and energy. Freed from communication oversight, human cryptographers designed an information network so elegant and so fast that it made the galactic relay system look like 2 cans connected by string. They were angry, and they were focused, and anyone who had ever met a human would have known that this was the most dangerous combination in the known universe. In the 11th year, a Galactic Council emergency frequency crackled to life on a receiver in a small room in the UN diplomatic building in Geneva. The voice on the other end was High Chancellor Zyrex. He sounded older. More tired. The iridescent authority that had filled the chamber 11 years ago had thinned considerably. The Kreth expansion had reached the inner systems. The void plague had become a void crisis. And the Ferox cluster anomaly had finally been officially named, a cascading gravitational collapse that 17 of the network's best minds had spent 8 years failing to solve. Darian Voss, now Director Voss, and considerably grayer at the temples, took the call in his office. He listened without interrupting. He did not smile, because he was not that kind of man. He did not say "I told you so," because he had never needed to. When Zyrex finished speaking, Voss was quiet for a moment. "High Chancellor," he said, "I'm going to connect you with our engineering team. They've been working on the Ferox problem for 6 years." A pause. "They have a solution." The silence from the other end of the line was the sound of an ancient and powerful creature realizing, for the first time, that it had made a terrible miscalculation. "The terms of re-entry," Zyrex began. "Will be discussed," Voss said, "after we solve your problem." His voice was still calm. Still settled. That's how humanity works, High Chancellor. We help first. Another pause, shorter this time. Then we talk about what we're owed. He transferred the call. Outside his window, Earth continued its quiet revolution around the sun, 4.5 billion years old and wholly unconcerned with the opinions of the galaxy. It had been here before the network. If it came to it, it would be here after. They did not leave in anger. They did not return in triumph. They simply remained, constant, patient, and impossible to extinguish, and that, in the end, was the thing no civilization in 42,000 years of recorded history had ever managed to explain, predict, or prepare for. Galactic Historical Archive, Volume 7441, The Human Anomaly.